Hello and welcome to my Citrix on Azure Better Together demonstration, which I've recorded to show you just how easy it is to deploy desktops, applications and full virtualization workloads into the cloud. Over the next 30 minutes, we will discuss the components, the deployment and the benefits of our partnership and how this can help both your business and your customers thrive. Now, before we jump into the components, let's just take a few moments to think about why this partnership is important. Firstly, it will help your business grow. 90% of Fortune 500 companies trust the Microsoft Cloud, and with Citrix you get nearly 30 years experience in delivering virtual desktops and applications to the enterprise. What's more, as a hyperscale service, Azure is built from the ground up to run services just like the Citrix Cloud. And with plenty of other solutions in our extensive portfolio, you can tailor the perfect offering to suit your business needs. Privacy is also built into the fabric of our service, meaning that we comply with all new regulations. Then, when combined with Citrix, your end users will be able to securely access their desktops and applications from any device, with discounts enjoyed through our hybrid benefit tariffs. With the support and advice of two industry experts, now is the time to move services to the cloud and take back control of your complex hybrid IT. So let's take a look at the architecture. Now, as we can see, the Citrix Cloud provides centralized management and access to virtual applications and desktops through XenApp and XenDesktop technologies. This greatly reduces your time to deploy and eases workloads for IT professionals. It connects you to your resources through a cloud connector and enables you to create, manage and deploy workspaces to your end users through a single console. The simplified workspace design provides a fast, unified and simpler way to keep multiple workspaces up to date, optimized and deployed where you want. This is achieved by designing workspaces from various services published to the core cloud platform. This is where all Citrix management, integration and web services from virtual desktops, devices and data sharing are maintained. Then, admins select the virtual workloads by installing the Citrix Cloud Connector, securely accessing resources and the enterprise directory. This makes it easy to subscribe the right people to the right workspace. Let's take a look. Now, before we jump into the demo, I just want to stress that I'm working under the assumption that you're all comfortable deploying Azure resources. If you're new to Azure or a little rusty, then I invite you to take a look at my Build a Company in Azure training on www.azuredan.co.uk. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to Toby, Tom and Ian, who were instrumental in putting this training together. Okay, let's get started. So in this lab, we will go ahead and build a super quick deployment of Citrix Cloud and some resources to connect into it. To begin with, we're going to deploy our domain controller, and we'll do this by using a pre-configured template from azure.com. So let's navigate to the site, and then from the menu we will select More, Resources and Templates. Now from here I want to search for a template that will enable us to quickly create a new forest. So from the search box I will enter my search string Azure VM with a new AD forest, and in the results returned select the template before pressing the Deploy to Azure button. From here, all I need to do is provide a location for the resources to be stored, and I will do this by creating a new resource group named Citrix Cloud Resources. Then I will provide an administrative name and password alongside my DNS preferences. Once done, I will agree to the terms and conditions, choose to pin my deployment to the dashboard and then press purchase. Now this will take around 20 minutes to complete, so let's pause the video and come back once deployed. Okay, and we're back, and we can see that our domain controller has been deployed. So let's go ahead and connect into the machine. To do this, I will click on the VM button and then at the top of the overview blade, press the connect button. This will allow me to configure an RDP file that I can then download onto my machine. Now, I've already gone ahead and done this, so let's take a look at our domain controller and verify a successful installation. You'll notice that from Server Manager we have Active Directory, Directory Services and DNS installed. And this is important because the subsequent machines that we create will need to connect into this domain, and they'll be able to do so because the IP address of this server is going to be provided by Azure DHCP. If we head up to the tools and select Active Directory Users and Computers, we'll see that the name we specified earlier has been registered and that we have a new vanilla domain. So let's now begin creating our resources. To do so, we'll head back into the Azure portal. Now the next machine that we will create will be our Cloud Connector. This machine is responsible for the communication between the Citrix Cloud and our Azure resources. Think of it as the machine that enables cloud management, but without the need to set up any complex networking or infrastructure configurations. To do this, we will create a new Windows 2016 Data Center VM by selecting the plus sign on the left-hand menu and creating a new resource. There's nothing new here if you're familiar with Azure. We will simply search for a 2016 data center machine and hit the Create button. From here we will call the machine Cloud Connector 01 and provide a username and password before opting to store the resources into the resource group that we created earlier. For the size, let's go ahead and select the DS2v3 and press Select. Now in a production environment, you'll want to create an availability set. This gives you the peace of mind in the unlikely event that a machine fails. However, in our demo, we are fine to skip this step. For the storage, we will go ahead and select a managed disk and then accept the defaults for the network, which were configured earlier as part of the domain controller template deployment. With that, I'm going to select our network security group and open up port 3389 for an RDP connection into the machine. I will also want to install antivirus as an OS extension. Finally, I will disable monitoring and press OK to move on to the summary pane. Once validation is complete, I will press Create to begin the deployment. Now this again will take a few minutes to deploy, so let me pause the video once more and return when complete. And we're back. Now with our new machine deployed, we're going to want to download the RDP profile so that we can remote into the machine and connect it to the domain. So just like before, we will click on the VM tile and from the overview pane, select Connect and then configure our RDP file. Now I've already done this, so let's jump into the machine and join it to our domain. To do this, I will select the Local Server tab from Server Manager and then in the Properties screen, click on Workgroup. From here, I will press the Change button and then in the Member of Domain field, type my domain name. Once done, I will press OK, enter the username and password of my domain admin and then press OK once more. At this point, our server will join the domain and ask us to reboot. So let's go ahead and press OK, close and then restart now to bounce the box. As the machine restarts, we'll head back into our domain controller to check to see if the machine has been registered in the domain. And as we can see, it has. Now before we begin building out our VDA resources, I want to connect into the Citrix cloud and begin downloading the files needed to complete the setup. To do this, I'm going to create a simple share on our newly created virtual machine, which is just a case of going into File Explorer, creating a new folder and then sharing via a right click. With this done, we'll open up Internet Explorer and connect to citrix.cloud.com. Now, I already have an account set up, but if you want to follow along with this video, simply head over to the URL on screen and set yourself up with a trial. I'll sign in and then from the hamburger menu at the top left hand side, I will select Resource Locations and the download button for Cloud Connect. I'll save my file into my newly created share and then head back to the left hand menu to select My Services, Zen App and Zen Desktop. In the new page that opens, we'll head over to the right hand side and select Downloads. Then, from the new page, we'll select the Download VDA button. From here, we will first download the Server OS VDA and then select the Desktop OS variant. Finally, we will scroll down to download the Citrix receiver file, and in the new page that opens, select the latest receiver file for Windows. Great, so we're looking good to move on to our next step, which is to create some resources. And we're going to do this by creating both a server and a desktop VM. So back into our portal, let's head over to the left-hand menu and begin by creating a new 2016 data center VM. We'll name it ZenApp01 and then, just like before, configure it with a DS2 v2 size and enable the RDP port. As that deploys, we will once again head up to the Create New Resource and this time create a Windows 10 Pro machine. We'll name this Zen Desktop 01 and, just as before, size it as a DS2 v2 and configure it for RDP. Okay, so these will take a few minutes to deploy. Once done, we will need to RDP into the machines and join them to the domain. Now, we've seen this done earlier in the video, so to save time, I will pause and come back when these steps have been completed. And we're back, and we can see that our machines have been created, and if we head over to our domain controller, we can also see that they have been joined to the domain. So let's now begin deploying the Citrix components into our solution. To begin with, we will install the Cloud Connector. Now remember, this is the bridge between our resources and the Citrix Cloud, effectively taking all of the hard work out of setting up a connection. To do this, we will head over to CC01, the VM we created earlier, and from here we will navigate to our local Citrix folder. I'll right-click the connector file and choose to run as an administrator. Now this will perform a connectivity test, and once complete, invite me to sign into the Citrix Cloud. Once authenticated, the connector will install and finally perform one last connectivity test to ensure that we can successfully communicate with the Citrix Cloud. As we can see, we are successful. So let's head into the Citrix Cloud portal and see what's been configured. Okay, so I will click onto my Citrix Cloud tab and from here navigate back to resource locations. As you can see, CC01 is registered, however we have a warning highlighting the fact that we do not have high availability. Now for the sake of the demo, we're not going to worry about this. However, in a production environment, you'd want to ensure that you have configured at least one more Cloud Connector device. Anyway, let's now turn focus onto installing our virtual delivery agents. Now a virtual delivery agent, or VDA, enables connections into applications and desktops. We simply install a component onto the machine that runs our service and it registers with the delivery controllers in the Citrix Cloud to provide high definition experiences to our end users. Let's begin by configuring our application server. To do so, we will connect into the CC01 machine. From here, we will connect to the share that we created earlier and then run the VDA server setup as an administrator. When the configuration tool opens, I will select to enable connections to a server machine. Now this will install the VDA onto the VM. I'll remove the Citrix receiver under Core Components and accept defaults under Additional Components. In the delivery control window, I will enter the fully qualified domain name of the Cloud Connector before pressing Add and then Next. I'll then leave the defaults for features and firewall before pressing the Install button. Now this will take around 10 minutes to complete and it will reboot the VM. So let's jump over to our Windows 10 VM and begin the installation of the VDA on that machine. So from the Windows 10 VM, I will once again connect to the share that we created earlier, this time selecting to run the VDA workstation file as the administrator. As the configuration pane opens, I will select to enable remote PC access and then ensure that I uncheck the Citrix receiver. Next, I will leave the defaults for the additional components and, as before, configure the connection to the cloud connector. Finally, I will leave all other settings as default and click Install. Now again, this will take around 10 minutes to deploy and it will reboot the VM in the process. So let's pause the video and return once complete. Okay, so everything has now been installed. Let's go back into the Citrix Cloud portal and look at how we can start deploying our resources. We'll start by clicking onto the hamburger menu and selecting the XenApp server. From here, we will click on the Manage button to take ourselves into the Citrix Studio. Now, the Citrix Studio is the primary management plane for administering both XenApp and Zen desktop sites. We're going to use it to perform the initial setup and then provision both app and desktop publishing. Let's begin by publishing some apps. To do so, I will click on the Create Machine Catalog and then from here, next through the Introduction before selecting the Server OS. I'll leave the defaults for machine management and then click on Add Computers to add the XenApp app server to the catalog. Next, I will set the minimum functional level to 7.9 or newer before providing a name and description and completing the wizard. With that done, we will once again create a machine catalog, but this time for our Windows 10 desktop. We will next through the introductions and select Desktop OS as the operating system. As before, I will leave the defaults for machine management and then click on Add Computers to add the XenApp desktop to our catalog. I'll select 7.9 or newer for the minimal functional level and then provide a name and description to complete our wizard. With our catalogs complete, let's begin presenting them to our end users through delivery groups. Now, delivery groups are simple collections of desktops and applications that are created from machine catalogs. We'll begin by presenting some applications from our server. To do so, I will click on Create Delivery Group from the right-hand menu, then navigate through the wizard, selecting my Windows Server 2016 catalog. I will accept the defaults for user management, opting to allow control via the Citrix Cloud and then begin adding my apps. Now, I haven't installed anything on these machines, so we're going to have to use our imaginations. However, we should be able to get the general idea by sharing the calculator and notepad apps. I will provide names and a description for the service before finishing the wizard. With that done, we will create a second delivery group to present our Windows 10 desktop. Once again, I will accept the defaults, selecting my last remaining catalog hosting Windows 10. I will select the delivery type as desktop and then allow Citrix Cloud to manage the user assignments. Finally, I will provide names and a description for my end users before completing the wizard. With that done, let's head back into our library. From here we will see 3 offerings and we will need to allocate subscribers to each service. You'll notice how the Citrix Cloud connects into our Active Directory and therefore able to browse our domain users. Once the subscribers have been added, we will navigate back to the hamburger menu and select XenApp and Zen Desktop Services, followed by Overview. You'll notice as we scroll down the page that we have a URL listed. This will take us to the storefront site and present the applications that have been made available. From here, I will log on using my AD account credentials and once authenticated, be presented with 3 tabs: Home, Apps and Desktops. If I select Apps, you will see that I have both Calculator and Notepad available to me, and if I select them, they will open up as a remote session. If I then click onto Desktops, I'm able to select my Windows 10 machine, empowering me to work on any device from any location and at any time. And that's how easy it is to set up Citrix Cloud on the Microsoft Azure platform, proving that the technologies really do work better together. In this presentation, we looked at the Microsoft Citrix partnership and how we can quickly and easily deploy resources to our end users. It's my wish that you found the video useful and invite you to reach out to me on social media if you have any questions. I thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you on my next video.